guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Rhia and this is Rhiadoesstuff's YouTube channel. Boom! So, the other day I was doing some revision and then a thought suddenly occurred to me. How crazy is it that this time last year, I was taking my GCSE exams and now I'm taking my AS levels. And I know that right now everybody's stressing about trying to cram in their last bits of revision, or for some people starting revision, but it is never too late and everybody is in the same boat. I think that's always really important to remember. Everybody is in the same boat, everyone's feeling as stressed as you, and hopefully you can find some comfort in the fact that there are people who feel exactly the same way that you do. When I was revising for my GCSEs last year, I found out what type of learner I was. Now there are 3 types of learner, which I'm probably sure you're all aware of anyway, but I'll just tell you them just in case you don't know. There's auditory, there's visual, and there's kinesthetic. Now personally, I'm an auditory learner, which means I take information in by hearing it. I was like, oh my goodness, how do I revise if I'm an auditory learner? Because most of the revision techniques that we get given in school are mind maps or highlighting or like doing little doodles that relate to things, but you don't really get that much for auditory learners. I searched all over YouTube, all over the internet to try and find some tips for auditory learners, but I could find nothing, absolutely nothing. So after not really finding anything on the internet, I decided that I was going to make up my own sort of revision tips. So for me, these tips that I made up actually worked and helped me do well in my GCSEs, thank goodness. And if you wanted to know what I got in my GCSEs, I got 3 A stars, 5 A's and 1 C in maths. We're not going to talk about maths, I'm sorry. If you want some revision help with maths, I am not the person to go to because maths was never my strong point. But I was really pleased with all of the other grades I got, and I think that these were mainly to do with the fact that I found effective revision techniques which worked for me. I thought, why not share my auditory learner tips with some of you guys in the hopes that this can improve your revision and help you do well in your exams? Because if I could help anyone, that would be absolutely amazing. So yeah, let's just get straight into the video, and feel free to donate me your thumbs if you'd like to donate your thumbs, and if you want to click that subscribe button, feel free. But yeah, let's just get straight into this video, so I hope you enjoy it. So before I actually start the auditory learner revision tips, I just wanted to give out a few hopefully helpful pieces of advice when it comes to actually revising for your exams. My first little advice tip piece thing is blueberries. Now blueberries are an absolute godsend, and I eat blueberries every single morning. So research has shown that by eating 1 cup of blueberries a day, it can have a significant impact on your ability to learn and on your memory. I was watching a study and they basically got a load of students together to take an exam, and half of them had a blueberry smoothie that morning and half of them didn't. And the ones that actually had a blueberry smoothie before that exam performed better in their exam than those who didn't. Do revision in bursts. I tend to do 45 minutes and a 10-minute break, but, and here's the but, I always time myself on the timer app on my iPhone before I actually start doing revision. So I will time out 45 minutes on the stopwatch, and when 45 minutes is done I will stop revising and then make a new timer for 10 minutes to make sure that I actually do stick to my schedule, rather than, you know, saying you're gonna have a 10-minute break and then it ends up being 30 minutes. My final tip for this section is about having a positive mindset and de-stressing. Now I know it's really super duper easy to stress during exams and get really worried and anxious about how you're going to do. And stress to a certain extent is a good thing, because stress shows that you actually care about succeeding. I want you to channel the feeling of succeeding into your revision. Before you actually start revising, say to yourself, I can do this, and just repeat that to yourself enough times, because if you repeat it to yourself a load of times, you'll actually start to believe it, and the more you believe it, the better you can do. So now moving on to the actual tips for auditory learners and how to revise if you're an auditory learner. Way! Now when I'm talking about some of these tips, I'm going to give specific examples of how I use them in specific subjects. Wow, I said specific a lot. So my first tip is probably my favourite one, and the one that I use all the time, reading aloud your notes. First of all, I get my workbook or my textbook or whatever notes it is that I want to learn, and then I will get a separate piece of paper and I will write down all of these notes, but I will paraphrase them. After you've written up all of your notes, then start reading them aloud to yourself. Now the reason that this helps is because the more you read it aloud, the more you're going to physically hear the information and the more you're going to take it in. Okay, so moving on to my next tip. This is quite similar to the first one. What I also like to do is go on my iPhone and use the audio recorder app and I will record myself speaking my notes out loud. Now this is really, really useful because you record your notes, save them on your phone, and then you can listen to them wherever you are. And what I always tend to do is listen to my notes before I go to bed, because if you learn things during the day and then solidify them before you go to bed, research has proven that you'll be able to remember them more effectively in the morning than if you just learn them during the day. I know it will sound embarrassing hearing your own voice back, it always sounds embarrassing hearing my own voice. My next tip still sort of links with the first two, and this is being able to create an audio track or audio file of revision notes that you particularly like. Now what I used to do was I used to go on BBC Bitesize, particularly for physics, and I would find a paragraph that I particularly needed to know. If there was a topic I was struggling on, I'd find a good paragraph on that. And then, this works on a Mac, and I'm not sure about Windows, but I can try and figure that out and insert that into a later video. If you highlight all of the information that you want and then right click on it, click Save as an audio track, so it will take you onto a page on iTunes where you can choose a robotic voice, a bit like Siri's voice, to then read out your notes for you. So then all you need to do is click Save. It's really that simple, and it will save it to your iTunes account as a spoken audio track, so you can play it whenever you want. The same sort of thing as recording your own voice. You can put in your headphones when you're walking somewhere or just before you go to bed. The more I listened to the notes through my headphones, the more I began to understand them, the more I remembered them. And it's just a quick and easy way of remembering notes, and it's also revision on the go. So if you don't have enough time to sit down and just constantly read aloud your notes to yourself, this is just really, really quick, really, really easy, and you can revise wherever you are. Listen to the rhythm of the street, open up your eyes, open up your ears. I've got the Arthur theme tune in my head and I have no idea why. And I can't get it out of my head. Believe in yourself. That's the place to start. And I said, hey, what a wonderful kind of day. This next tip is discussions, and this particularly helped me with English. So I got one of my friends from my English literature class, and we just had a discussion about the book that we're currently studying. So we had a discussion about The Great Gatsby. And this involved talking about separate themes within The Great Gatsby, for example the American dream and how Gatsby is an indictment of the American dream, or how women are mistreated in the patriarchal society of the 1920s and overly sexualized by Fitzgerald through the perception of Nick from the first person narrative structure. And discussing things like this with her was really, really helpful because it gave me a brush up on the book and all of the themes and facts within the actual book itself, and it also allows you to hear other people's opinions. So a really, really good thing to do in discussions is to get a previous exam question, and this is why I said it particularly helped me with English, because we had an exam question that we were actually studying in class, which we then decided to have a discussion on, which was who do we feel in the novels that we're studying suffers more, males or females? So I took the side of males and she took the side of females, and by discussing it you actually have to think of points either to go against or to the statement. It involved me having to look back through the books, think of particular points and then find quotes to strengthen these. And by sharing our opinions on the subject, we then made notes on what each other had said, and then it helped us to formulate and write out our own model answer. I just feel like that helps, and it's a good way of understanding the question, understanding what the question wants. And whilst we were doing this, we would also use the mark scheme from the question to validate our points and see how we could get the best grades possible. Linking on to English, another tip that I found particularly useful during my GCSEs was watching Mr. Bruff videos. He has videos for pretty much every single topic or book you could be studying during English at GCSE, and he also has exam answers and videos on how to get specific grades. For example, he has model answers for grade 8. I realise now that anybody taking their GCSEs will be getting graded numbers rather than actual like A, B, C, that sort of thing. So I'm assuming that 8 means an A star. So if you want to get 8s, I would recommend watching Mr. Bruff's tutorials because they are incredible. My next tip is for maths. Now I always found maths really, really difficult because I wasn't exactly sure how you could learn maths as an auditory learner, but just before my exams I did find something that was particularly useful, and I wish I'd had more time to actually use this source. But if you go online onto YouTube, you can find online tutorials of people going through past papers, and it's so helpful just to watch them because they'll show you how they worked everything out, they'll explain it to you. It just gives you the ability to pause, which I think is a really, really great thing because you can pause the video, you can rewind it, you can listen to it again, which obviously you can't sadly do with a real lesson because I feel like sometimes if a teacher talks too quickly you might not catch everything, whereas if you're watching a video on it you can just pause it wherever you want, go back, rewind and listen to it again. And a lot of the exams have sort of similar questions, so if you figure out how you can answer them then you'll be able to answer nearly any exam question, which is really, really helpful. So I would really recommend looking up maths tutorials. So I think that this next tip is particularly helpful for languages, and so what this is post-it notes. So this involves getting post-it notes and writing down key vocabulary or definitions and then posting the post-it notes everywhere that you frequently go. For example, I stuck them on door handles, I stuck them on windows, I stuck them on the fridge, I stuck them on my laptop. So every time I opened my laptop, I would see that vocabulary and then I'd have to read it aloud before I can do anything on my laptop. I always go into the fridge, so I stuck loads of post-it notes on the fridge. Always read them aloud when you go past them. That is my biggest tip. Don't just read them in your head, read them aloud. I don't care if it sounds stupid, I don't care if your dog's like, what the hell are you doing? You need to read them aloud. This one sounds kind of silly, but it does work. Make jingles. If you can make funny jingles, funny like phrases or anything like that to remember a particular answer to a question or to remember a paragraph you need to know, then do it. So one that I will never forget was one that my friend Emily made up in RE class to try and remember all of the principles of a just war, and it was this word called clopjaw. Basically got all of the letters of the first word of every single one of the principles and turned them into a weird word called clopjaw, which then became like a little joke that we always remembered, and it helped me in the actual exam. I did write on my paper clopjaw to try and remember all of the principles of a just war. So thank you, Emily, for that one. That's a really, really good example. Say them aloud to yourself and hopefully you'll be able to remember what they mean, and it's also something kind of funny and slightly humorous, which sometimes triggers your memory. Finally, my last tip. Now this one is a really, really confusing thing to explain. Writing down the first letter of every single word in a paragraph. I would recommend always looking at mark schemes and examiners' notes, and for example, if there is a question that frequently comes up in a science paper in particular, learn the model answer. Learn it off by heart. Learn it as many times as you can, just learn it. So this is what I used to do to learn Spanish speakings and model answers. So what I would do was I would write down the first letter of every single word in that paragraph, and then I would try and read aloud that paragraph using only the first letters of every single word and covering up the actual paragraph itself. Continually test yourself and then try and remember it and try and recall what the actual paragraph was itself. Hopefully it will try and trigger your memory so you'll be able to remember the rest of the word and then remember the entire sentence and recall it without looking at your piece of paper that actually has the paragraph on. But if there's a particular word that you just really, really can't remember, write down that word in the sentence so that when you're actually looking at every single letter, you'll have a word there to sort of help you out. So we have come to the end of this video, and those were all of my tips for how to revise if you're an auditory learner. I really, really hope some of these might have been quite helpful for you. Feel free to comment down below any ways of revision that you particularly find effective, because I love hearing about other people's revision. And just a final thought for this video, trust me, you can do absolutely amazing in your exams. You can exceed your target grades and you can do as well as you want to do if you just believe in yourself. And so I really, really hope that the exams go really, really well for you. So good luck, and yeah, it's the end of this video. So thank you guys all so much for watching. I have been Rhia, you've been amazing, bye-bye. When you finished all your exams, you can go on summer early if you're taking your GCSEs, so think about that to get you through, yeah? Okay. Because I'm doing this for the thrill of it, killing it.